Hi there. Welcome to the Pretty Collection Knitting Podcast. I'm Christina Pretty, your host. You can find me on Ravelry under Pretty. You can find me on my website, peterboroughyarnshop.com. You can find me on Facebook, the Pretty Collection Peterborough Yarn Shop, and also on Instagram under Pretty Designs. All this information I just said will be in the description box below and at the end of this video podcast. I have a clarification to make. If I forgot to mention some information on my last podcast about any of the pattern designs that I talked about, you can go to my Ravelry page and find all the information and patterns there. Today is Friday, November 17th, when I'm recording this video. So I hope to have this published for you on YouTube by Monday. That's hoping that everything goes well and you'll see it there. I just want to say I have some notes in front of me so I don't forget anything. And so forgive me for that. I'm having a cup of Earl Grey creamy vanilla tea, so I'll be sipping away on this while I do my podcast. Sometimes I get dry, and this is in my sweater weather mug. It's one of my favorite mugs and my favorite teas. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank you all for all those who watched and liked and subscribed and left a comment on my first video. It really means a lot to me, so thank you so much. I want to give a big thank you to my husband for doing all the technical work. It has been a team effort, I must say. Also, I want to give a big thank you to Keaton from the Geek Squad at Best Buys. He is the nicest, most knowledgeable, patient tech guy to work with, so I'm so grateful for his help. And I have an apology to make as well. If you tried to leave a comment or click on any of the links in my last video, I'm sorry that they weren't working. The comments were off and the hyperlinks were off for about a week. We had a hard time getting that fixed. The sound was also low. Some of my customers told me that they had a hard time hearing me. So I apologize for that. I think it was depending on what device you were watching it from, really. When we watched it on our cell phones or the TV, it sounded loud because you could turn the volume up and down. But maybe if you're watching it on your laptop or your computer, the sound could have been a bit low. Also, the background was a bit slanted. I didn't straighten the phone for the background. That's what I'm recording on, is my phone. I didn't have a table in front of me either because I was bending over picking things up, and so that was happening, and I didn't have a mannequin for the things that I was putting on display. But anyways, everything's fixed now. This is a new background. I have a microphone on now that I purchased. I have a table in front of me with all my things on it, so that should be better. And I also have my mannequin. So I wanted to do a podcast before Rhinebeck, and I never got one done. And that would have been an introduction, a proper introduction and podcast before I went to Rhinebeck, before I had to do the Rhinebeck recap. And so it was put together pretty quickly. And so I noticed all these things later. And so now this is my second one. So this will be more like a real podcast, and hopefully things will be better than the last time. So anyways, I have some notes in front of me, and it's just to keep me on track and so I don't forget some things. So anyways, the first thing that I want to do is have the free draw from the last podcast. I mentioned that I will be having a free draw when I do the podcast for one of the patterns that I talked about. So I'll try to insert the winner's name here if we can get that to work. If not, the winner is at user dash CB8SF2KS8X. So if that is you, please send me an email and I will send you the Knitovative pattern that you requested. Okay? So my email is prettycollection@hotmail.com. So that's PRIDIE collection@hotmail.com. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm Christina Pretty, and this podcast is called The Pretty Collection. It's a play off of my name. The Pretty Collection is spelled PRIDIE. It is an English name, but when I introduce myself to people, people say, what's your name? And I'll say Christina Pretty, and they always say, oh, that's a pretty name. So they think it's spelled PRETTY, and it's really funny. I looked up the transcript. So YouTube types out everything you're saying when you're doing your podcast. And so I looked at the transcript after the last podcast, and it spelled it out as PRETTY. Anyways, you pronounce it like that, but instead of the T sound, it's a D sound. So it's pretty, not pretty. Okay, so it's pretty. But when I say the Pretty Collection, it means my name. It is the Pretty Collection, but it's also Pretty Collection, if you know what I mean. So anyways, that is who I am. I live in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. I have 4 grown children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And I have 4 grandchildren. And these all came within the last year. I didn't think I was ever going to have grandchildren, but I have 3 girls and 1 boy, and 2 of those girls are twins. Not identical, but they are twins. And I have 1 spoiled 8-year-old Yorkshire Terrier dog named Daisy. She's like a shop dog. Everybody loves her, and she loves people. And some of my customers and students that I teach bring her treats, and she loves them. Anyways, I started knitting and crocheting when I was 10 years old. I first learned how to crochet granny squares from a lady in our neighborhood, and I'm self-taught after that. So I joined Ravelry right after it started. I don't know if that was 2007 or 2008. I'm not quite sure. And I've been designing and publishing seamless knitwear patterns ever since. I opened up Peterborough Yarn Shop in 2011. I teach group classes twice a week and private lessons in between. And for many years now, I have wanted to do a knitting podcast. And here I am doing my second one, which I can't believe. Anyways, I love to knit. I love to teach. I love to travel. I love meeting other knitters and makers. I love to drink tea. And I love to bike ride. Some goals and things that have been on my bucket list for many, many years is I want to go to Hawaii and I want to publish some knitting books someday. Okay, so let's get into what I am wearing. So what I'm wearing is Knitovative, and I did show this on my last podcast, but I wasn't wearing it. This is the green the green hemp yarn that I used to make this one. I don't know if you can stand up and maybe you can see it a little bit better on me. And this is the hem portion of it, which is done in a broken rib. You can see that there. I'm also wearing these laser cut earrings and necklace, and I've got a pair here that I'm going to show you that's a little bit easier to show. So this is the laser cut necklace, and there are 3 stitch markers that are attached to the necklace that come off that you can use on your knitting, and these are from the Howling Hills Studio. So you can see the laser cut, and it's the knit stitch. Okay. And these are the earrings. They're the same pattern design. So I bought myself a set to wear, and I bought this second set to use as a gift or for somebody. So you're wondering what's on the mannequin. This is the Knitovative dress. So I did talk about this on my last podcast as well. So I had a crop version that I was wearing in the podcast. And then I talked about the dress, and I talked about the green one that I'm wearing. So if you want to know more about that, you can check out my last podcast, and the patterns are all on Ravelry. So, okay, so we're going to talk about see here. We're going to talk about some finished objects that I have. So I did a collaboration with Mariposa Woolen Mills, and they gave me some of their yarn, and I designed up some patterns using their yarns. So the first one that I did was called the Mariposa hat. Just move that tag around a little bit there. So I just have a little leather tag on the side. There. So I'll take it off the head there, just to talk about it here for a minute. So this is actually the pattern that you'll see online on Ravelry. It's called Mariposa hat. And as you can see, this bottom portion here, I used, let me see here. So the yarn was, the yarn that I used to do the hat was the 100% Corriedale worsted weight wool. They were 100-gram skeins. There was 150 meters, 164 yards in the skein. And the color A that I used was called Flagstone, this color here. So this is the leftover bits of yarn that I have. There's a little bit more of that as well. So that's the flagstone. And the other color is called honeycomb. So the way this hat works is I used two strands of the flagstone to do the twisted rib and up to here. And then I used one strand of the flagstone and one strand of the honeycomb held together for the marling up here. And then I used two strands of just the honeycomb for the top portion. And then I used both the flagstone and the honeycomb for the pom-pom. And then I've just put a little leather label there. So it tells you in the pattern how to do that. You basically only need one skein of each of those colors. So I took the one skein of the flagstone and wound up half of it and weighed it on my scale, and then cut the yarn and rolled up the other half. So I had two balls of equal amounts, 50 grams in each, and I did the same thing with the honeycomb color. So I rolled or wound the skein up into two equal balls, 50 grams in each. So there was 4 portions so that you could hold the two strands together, whether you're using 2 of the flagstone or 2 of the honeycomb or 1 of each to do this hat. Very simple pattern. This is what the crown looks like. It's hard to see it maybe with the pom-pom there, but I made it so I can take the pom-pom off. I just tied it on the inside of the hat there in a bow so that it could be removed if I wanted to. And you can always put a faux fur pom-pom on it if you want to, but it's unisex. Men, women, anybody can wear it. It looks nice on everybody. It fits really good. Let me just see what else I need to say about it. I did it on an 8mm circular needle. The gauge was 12 stitches, 18 rows on 4 inches on the 8mm needles in stockinette stitch in the round, or size to obtain gauge, holding 2 strands together. So that was the Mariposa hat. Again, there's the pattern. Okay. Now, out of the leftovers that I had from doing the hat, I was able to make a headband. Now, this is a pattern I designed up. Okay, I'll show you the pattern first here. It's called To Knot or Not. There's the pattern. To knot or not. That means you can make the headband with the knot in it or not. You can leave it out. So that's the pattern. Sorry about that. So where was I? I was showing you the To Knot or Not headband. So this is the headband. And it has the knot in it. Very easy to make. So I used the leftover yarns, like I said, in the honey color to do the headband. And it's a really nice pattern. Again, it can be unisex because in the pattern, you don't have to put the knot in it. It's more feminine looking. So you can just put the two ends together and make it straight for a man. So on the pattern, it says the measurements are approximately 4.5. So it's 4.5 inches wide here, and it does stretch. You can see that. So it's 4.5 inches wide by 18 around. The gauge is 24 stitches by 40 rows, equals 4.5 inches on a 5mm needle. Just checking to make sure the video is recording. And this is in a brioche rib that I've done it in. So, but you can use any chunky weight yarn that will give you the gauge and yardage. It takes 50 grams to make one adult size headband. On the pattern here, I use Patton's Shetland Chunky and Hayfield Chunky Tweed with wool. I've done them in different yarns. You can hold 2 strands of worsted weight yarn together to equal a chunky weight, or you can hold 1 strand of white and 1 strand of a contrasting color together to get that marled look. Anyways, I used the leftovers from the 2 skeins of yarn. I had 2 skeins of yarn to make the hat, and I was able to get the hat and the headband out of it. So there are the 2 items I got done. And the leftover yarns that I had from doing the 2 projects is that much. I haven't weighed it up to see how much there is, but there's 3 little bits left. That's pretty good out of 2 skeins of yarn. Here's the labels of the yarn. So it is Mariposa Woolen Mill. And this one is the Corriedale worsted 100% wool honeycomb. And these are 100% Canadian made. And this was the Flagstone. Okay. So that was those 2 items. Okay, so the next one that I have finished is called the Mariposa Mittens. And again, this is the same collaboration with the same woolen mills. And they gave me some yarn to design something with. And I designed some mittens, Mariposa mittens. I called them that because it is the Mariposa mill, and so I thought that would be appropriate. So there's the pattern, Mariposa mittens. And here are the mittens. So I can just hold them up to show you. And this is what the other side looks like. So I'll just put one on here so that you can see it a little bit better. So there is a nice design on the front, something that I made up that I thought was really nice for the mittens. You could put this design in anything, really. a hat or headband or whatever. So hopefully you can see that okay. Okay, so the Mariposa mittens was made out of 70% mohair and 30% Canadian fine wool, and it's a bulky weight. So there's the yarn there. And here is the label. Again, it's Mariposa Mills. And this was in the color Wild Flowers. So, Wild Flowers. So they fit from teen to adult. Again, they're unisex. The gauge is 7 stitches by 10 rows equals 2 inches on 6mm needles in stocking stitch in the round or size to obtain gauge. It was just one skein made the pair of mitts, and it's a bulky weight. There was 174 grams of yarn, which was 100 meters, 109 yards, or any bulky weight yarn that will give you the gauge and yardage. It takes 139 grams to make a pair of mittens. So yeah, just checking the label here. Yeah. So I used a 5.5 millimeter double pointed needles and 6mm double pointed needles for the body part of like the hand part. So I used the small needles for the cuff and the larger one for the mitt part. So they're really nice and soft and so warm. So the pattern again is on Ravelry if you'd like to check it out there. And I will be inserting pictures. I hope I have been inserting pictures for the items that I'm showing you. I forgot to say that, but anyways, so hopefully there was a hat pattern popping up and the headband and now the mitts. While I'm talking about them, hopefully they have popped up. So forgot to mention that. Okay. So those were the two things, the Mariposa hat and the Mariposa mittens, that were a collaboration. The headband was my own doings. It wasn't part of that collaboration. It was just something that I made with the leftover yarns. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about here is, okay, let me see. Oh, before I do that, let me just show you a couple things that I have here. I wasn't looking at my notes, so I'm getting off topic here. Wanted to show you these couple mitten stretchers that my husband makes these, and we make them and sell them, and they're really nice. They are mitten stretchers, so they're quite thick, as you can see. They're thick. They have some snowflake cutouts on them. So, and they're joined together with some jute twine, and there's 2, so they come as a set made out of nice hardwood there. And I also have a pair that are different. These are mitt glove stretchers, and this is what they look like. So the thumb is joined on with jute twine. There's some heart cutouts, and the fingers, and there's 2 of those as well, as you can see. So they're a pair like that. The holes are cut out so that the airflow can go through to dry your mittens or gloves. And those are solid wood too. So we have those for sale too. If there's anything that I talk about on this podcast that you're interested in, just feel free to email me. And if you want to purchase something, you just, tell me what you'd like and I can ship it out to you. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about is a cozy cowl. And this here is what the pattern looks like. Cozy cowl. And this is what it looks like. Sorry that it's black. It might be a little hard to see. But you can see that there's a casing on the top. So there's a casing on the top. I just have to be mindful and remember that to keep things down from my face when I'm talking, because one of my good friends is hard of hearing. And so when she watches the videos, she has to have the captions on or she has to read lips. So if I'm holding something up in front of my face, she's not going to be able to hear me. So I'm just trying to be mindful of that. So there's the casing. If you can see it, it's folded over. And there's a little toggle and drawstring that goes through it, which has a little button on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. And you push it there, which you can pull the string out as far as you want. So this here was done in one ball of hayfield chunky tweed with wool. So it's very tweedy, as you can see. There's a little leather label on the bottom. Okay, so this was done, this is also a unisex project. It measures 11.5 inches wide by 10 inches high, and it's 23-inch circumference. The gauge was 14 stitches by 22 rows, equals 4 inches on 6mm needles in stocking stitch in the round or size to obtain gauge. So gauge is important when you're making things. Here it says if you want the perfect fit or to be able to knit this cowl out of 1 ball of yarn, otherwise 2 balls would be required. So check your gauge when you're making it if you want to get it out of the 1 ball. So that again was 1 ball of hayfield chunky tweed with wool. That was 74% acrylic, 20% wool, 6% viscose. It was 100-gram balls. There was 145 meters, 158 yards, or any chunky weight that will give you the gauge and yardage. It was done on 6mm circular needles and 8mm circular needles. I used 1 meter of cording, which is optional, and 1 cord stopper and a leather label on this. You can make the cording out of scrap yarns and do twisted cording. You can do an I-cord. You can put ribbon through it. You can put whatever you like through it. What is really cool, this is sort of a dual project, I guess. In a pinch, if you were outside and you were cold and you wanted a hat on, you could just scrunch up the cord up as far as it could go, and it bundles this all up tightly, as you can see, and then it can just become a hat. Okay, in a pinch. Okay, so it's a really nice, quick, and easy project. So if you're looking to do Christmas gifts for people this year, the hat, the cowl, the headband, the mitts, those are all quick and easy projects. 1 skein, 2 skein, or 1 ball projects. And you can sit and make one very quickly. And they make nice practical gifts and things that people are going to appreciate and wear. We're supposed to be in for a cold winter, so it's good to have a bunch of these on hand. Even when, you know, people come over, if you need some extra things in your little basket, some extra hats and cowls and mitts, it's good to have some of those on hand. So let me see here. What else? Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is some acquisitions that I have gotten. Now, last time I was recording and showing you all the things that I purchased at Rhinebeck. But after we left Rhinebeck, we did stop in Watertown, and I did go to a couple other stores and purchase some things, but I didn't show them on the last podcast. And so let me see what I have here. Sorry, I am bending down for this one out of my bag. Just trying to find the label here. I don't know where it went. Maybe I put it in my zippered pouch. Let me just take a look for a minute. Oh, no, I have it on the table. What do you know? So organized, I'm disorganized. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so the first acquisition that I got was 6 skeins of some alpaca. No, sorry, it wasn't alpaca. It was anti-pilling bamboo, chunky. So this is what I purchased. I got 6 balls of this. There's the label. Premier Anti-Pilling Bamboo Chunky. Okay, and this is what the yarn came in balls with this label around it. And I've kind of rewound them, and I'll get to the reason for that at the end of the podcast here. So this here is the color blueberry, which kind of looks like a denim color, which I thought would be nice to wear with some jeans. Okay, so this here yarn is bamboo chunky. They say it's like new, wash after wash. It's 131 yards, 120 meters for a 100-gram ball. It's 80% anti-pilling acrylic and 20% rayon from bamboo. It's a number 5 bulky. The gauge is 14 stitches, 18 rows. This is what the ball band says. And the color is blueberry pie. So that's blueberry pie, and the color number is on there as well. Okay, so the other, I'll just show you what I'm no, I'll show you the other things first that I purchased. I purchased this little tin box, which I thought was really cute. It has a ball of yarn and knitting needles on it. And the back of it is just a gingham pattern. And I just keep all my notions, my notions in there, you know, tape measures, scissors, stitch markers, and different things in there. The other thing I bought was this little needle holder, this little wooden needle holder. I think it says Yarnology on it. And it's really nice. It just opens up, and this is where I keep my gold tapestry needle, my bent tip tapestry needles in, and it's just easier to find them knowing that they're in there. Okay, and I also bought some leather labels too, and there's two different ones. I also sell them as well, but I didn't have them quite this size and with these sayings on it. One says "Stitched with Love." And one has just a ball of yarn on it. There you go. The other things that I bought were, I purchased this little project bag. It's canvas. It's got a dirt mark on it now, of course. Anyways, I purchased this little canvas project bag. It's plain on one side, but it has 3 pockets. So there's one pocket here, one pocket here, and one pocket there, and it's canvas. And this is one of those kind that is just plain, so you could, you know, put anything you want on it, embroider on it, put a saying on it. You could even dye it if you want to. It's whatever you want to do. It's plain. And I also purchased this, where'd it go now? This zippered pouch. And it was in the same place as the project bag. All these unfinished plain canvas bags. And they had smaller pouches in this too, and it has a zipper as well. So there's a zipper in there. And again, I just keep my tins in there and crochet hooks and yarn bits and what I need. So this little zippered bag goes right into that pouch. And this pouch also holds my 2 sets of Addy click needles, and that's in my Kitchener bag there. And it's got a zipper as well. So I have all my needles, I have all my notions, all in this little bag, but it'll also hold a project and other things. So I got those as well. Okay, so with the yarn that I purchased there, the Bamboo Chunky, I got home, and maybe a week after I was home from Rhinebeck, I thought I'm going to design something with that yarn. And usually I try to purchase less expensive yarns when I'm designing a new pattern, and then I'll make it again in some other yarns. I call it the good yarn or the better yarn, or maybe some yarn that I really want to make it in. But when I'm trying out a new pattern, I'm, you know, sometimes you're ripping things in and out and changing things, so you don't want to do it right away in the good. So these are kind of like my prototype yarns I use. And so I am designing, this is my works in progress right now, a new cardigan design. And so this is how much I've got done so far. It's getting pretty close to finishing. So it is a top down raglan V-neck cardigan. Okay, so I've got the sleeves. Now, when I first started this sweater, I did a tapered sleeve, and then I did a straight sleeve and did a rapid decrease off down by the cuff. So I did 2 different sleeves, and then I tried it on to see which one I liked the best, and I ended up liking the one that was straight and sort of tapered, decreased off before the cuff. So I ripped the other one out and did it over and to that style. Anyway, so the sleeves are straight, and then there's a 2x2 cuff, and now I have the ball of yarn left stuck up in the sleeve right now, and my needle's all attached and everything because I'm not finished with it yet. So I've just left it to where I think I want it. But I like to leave them until the whole sweater's finished, because once you try on a sweater, that's when you really get the proper fit and the length of your arms. And if this is too long, I can take some out. If it's not long enough, I can add to it. So the sleeves are all done. Both of them are the same. So I got one done there and one done here. The whole sweater's done. I've woven in my ends even. The V-neck comes down to here. So there's the V to there. And then it's straight down from there. And then the hem has a 2x2 rib as well to match the cuffs. So right now what I'm doing is I've just picked up all the stitches around the whole sweater. So from the hem all the way up and all the way around the other side to the other side of the hem, all the stitches are picked up. So I have them on my needles here, and I'm ready to start the 2x2 rib all the way around and add the buttonholes as well. So I should probably have this finished by the next time I podcast so that I can show it to you. So that's my work in progress right at the moment, is this cardigan sweater. Okay, so let me get this put away. Just take a sip of my cold tea now. Okay, so we're getting into the part, let me see where we are. We're getting into the part now with the tips and tricks part. So let me see, where do I want to go with this? Okay, so I was saying about the yarn that I had here, this yarn here, that I've rewound it into a ball. Now what I like to do, and this is a little tips and tricks segment, is I like to wind up all my yarn before I start knitting with it. The reason for that is because I like to know where all the knots are or any damaged yarns. Over the years of my life knitting, I have come across some pretty crazy things in yarn, from multiple knots in a ball, like 6 in one ball, to just broken off ends or just pieces that have just whisked away, really thick spots, thin spots. I don't know if you've come across this or not, but I even find with the different plied yarns, the factories will even take and put a little knot on one of the threads, not on all of them. They won't break it completely, but one side of a thread will have a knot on it, and you'll see that a lot. So little knots on the sides of a thread, broken knots, thick spots, thin spots, just wispiness, different colors of yarn even in your yarn. If you got blue, there could be a bit of red in it, or odd spots like that. And this is not, I'm not talking hand dyed yarns, I'm talking commercial yarns. And, you know, all kinds of things. I'm sure you've seen it as well. So I like to wind my balls up before I start my project, so I know where all this hidden things are. And then when I've wound up all the balls, I can strategically use them in my project. You know, I'll use the ones that are perfect in being a seamless knitter in the biggest part and portion of the project. And then I'll use the smaller bits in collars, cuffs, hems, whatever, you know, so I can put in less knots as possible in my project is what I'm trying to say. I don't like knots. I don't like them in my project. I don't like broken. I like everything to be perfect, I guess. So that's why I do it. So I'm going to talk about winding yarn and the balls of yarns here. It's going to hopefully help you. Hopefully help. So I'll just show you the different yarns. Okay. So yarn can come in a ball like this. Ball, right? Yarn can come in a skein like this. Yarn can come in a cake like this, cake. Yarn can come on a cone. Okay. So when you're winding yarns, you don't particularly have to wind the cones. They're already on a cone, so you just use them straight from the cone. The cakes are all nicely in a cake, so there's a center pull. You can just pull that out and use it. Skeins have to be put on a yarn swift, which I have here. So this is a yarn swift. I'm not going to take it out and show and demonstrate that right now, but it's basically like opening an umbrella. Okay, so this opens up, okay, like this. Okay, so you basically can't clamp this to your table. You put your skein on the outside of this umbrella and tighten it up, and you tighten it up with this. Once you have it tight, you are going to attach the end of the yarn to a ball winder. So this is also clamped to your table. So the skein goes on the swift umbrella, and then the end goes onto your ball winder, and then you wind the yarn this way to make a cake. Okay, so again, skein on the yarn swift to the ball winder to a cake. So that's how you have to wind skeins. And then the balls here, like this one, these are the ones that I like to wind up. And basically you only need the ball winder for doing that. So you take the end and attach and just wind it up. And if you come across a knot, I usually cut them out and rewind the rest of it. So I know we're all, I know all the balls will be all in different weights, so then I can weigh them up with my weigh scale, and then I can tell how much yarn is in each one and how I'm going to use it. Okay, so that's the yarn and why I do that. So I was just going to talk about now when you're using the balls of yarn. When you have a ball of yarn here, some people want to know, do you use the inside or do you use the outside? Let me just explain that. Okay, so if you were to use the outside of the ball, it's going to flop around on the floor and roll around on you. If you use the inside of the ball, it's going to start to collapse as the yarn gets used up. So both ways are sort of not so great. So if you can wind them up into a cake first, or even a ball into a ball by hand, if you don't have these tools, if you don't have a yarn ball winder, you can just wind them up by hand and it'll be a ball. And then you can use your yarn bowl to put your ball in, and it'll swirl around in the yarn bowl. Or in the bottom of your project bag, it can roll around in there. But if you do want to use the yarn from the inside, I just want to show you this little trick. If you're going to pull your yarn from the inside, there's two ends to the ball of yarn. This end here, as you can see, looks very closed in at the end, and the hole is very tiny. This end here, up here, the hole is a lot larger and it's more open and bigger. This is the end that you want to find the end in. So you're going to put your fingers into the center of the end with the biggest hole, and you're just going to grab one piece of yarn like that. That should be the center pull, and you keep pulling a little bit, and sometimes you'll get a little bit come out like that. People call it yarn barf. So then what you need to do is let this hang down. Try not to wind it from the end, or sometimes the end is wrapped up into this tangled mess, and people want to try and find the end. That's the worst thing you can do, because it could take hours just untangling that little bit. Don't wind it from the end with the tail. Wind it from the end that it's hanging from the ball. That will only take a few minutes to wind, and it will just come out all by itself, untangled. So you wind it like that, and you just kind of shake it a little bit, and you'll see that it'll just unwind just by shaking it and pulling on the bottom part here, and that will all just be as easy as that. But if you try pulling it and finding the other end, it could take forever to wind that little bit of yarn that you pulled out of the center. So I hope that little tip helps you when you're doing that. The other thing is, the most important thing is, when you are using balls of yarn, you either use them all from the outside or use them all from the inside. Don't mix back and forth. Don't use some from the outside and some from the inside. There is a twist on the yarn. One end has an S twist, the other end has a Z twist. And if you mix them up, when you knit your sweater, and you see it a lot in stockinette stitch, mostly it'll look like rowing out look, or zigzaggy, mesmerized, uneven fabric. It will not look nice. So it's very important that you use them all from the outside or all from the inside, not back and forth. Okay, so let me see. Okay. So, the next thing I want to talk about or mention is on the backs of my patterns, I always put some pearls of wisdom. And so on the back page of my patterns, I always have some pearls of wisdom there. Okay, so I'm just going to read the patterns that I talked about today on this pattern, or on this podcast, sorry, are the Mariposa hat, the Mariposa mitts, the cozy cowl, and to knot or knot headband. So there's 4 patterns that I talked about today, these 4 patterns. And I'm just going to read you one of the pearls of wisdom. I'm not sure which one it came from, but it came from one of these. And it says, the struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. So that's something to think about. I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about today. So I just want to thank each and every one for watching. If you liked this content and want to see more, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for the next one. And please share it with your friends. And don't forget to tell me your favorite pattern in the comment below, and ask any questions that you have, and I will draw a winner next podcast for one of these patterns and answer your questions. And I hope to do this every 2 weeks. So in the meantime, I just want to say, keep knitting, do what brings you joy, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay? Happy knitting.